Calamari, salutations everyone! Squid here bringing you another episode of the Clean Sweep. This is the 5th episode actually, and this episode will encompass both week 6 and week 7 of the YCL, so the rest of the regular season that I hadn't done. So to address my lack of uploads these 2 weeks, I had some adulting issues that I had to take care of. And with the speed tour matches and prep in the middle, I just couldn't find the time to do the videos right away. That said, I now have some free time and should be able to catch up on uploads. I decided that I will do the pick'ems part in another separate video so that I can go about all the matches that happened not as much in depth as I did in previous weeks, and so that the video is not that long, and so that you guys can catch up on all the action that happened during the last 2 weeks of the YCL. So shall we do that? Yeah, we shall. And we're gonna start out with week 6. So the first match we're gonna do in week 6 is the 3 Electrons versus the 6 Street Viper, and Sven actually won this one because both coaches disconnected mid-match via Wi-Fi LAN actually, and Sharky decided to give the match as the score was, and that ended up being Sven claimed as the victor. So there's no recording of it, but we can assume that it was kind of balanced in the beginning of the match, as the score shows, and we can only speculate about how this match would have played out if it had gone all the way. Next we have the Miami Heatmar versus the Rustboro City Rejects, and it was a very close match. I liked the Cresselia set that Arts brought to break down Aldra's team early match, and then he managed to claim the rest of the KOs with the Urshifu, so Urshifu proved MVP once again, and not even the Primarina was able to stop it. Next up, we have a match that actually didn't happen. It wasn't fought. It was the Cold Summer Assassins versus the Philadelphia Melmetals, and Souza just decided to forfeit both this match and the next one. He just wasn't in the mind state to complete more matches and decided to forfeit both of those. So with this, Sherry actually got his second win, and he was in a prime position to eventually claim the playoff spot of Sharky, so the last week was the one that was gonna decide that. Next up we have the Trashtown Thieves versus the Austin Taurus, and the Austin Tauruses managed to win. My main criticism for Bishmi this match is, why didn't you bring Sableye? Sableye is so good, and actually trying to sweep with Mantine is like Bishmi trying to give the opponents some room so they can actually win, because Bishmi is the GOAT, and if he doesn't give purposely some advantage to his opponents, he's gonna win every time. So this time he managed to give the opponent an advantage by trying to sweep with Mantine. So this is basically what happened in the battle. He couldn't sweep with Mantine, and the Electric Terrain team decided to go ham on Bishmi. Next up, we have the Immunity Idols versus the Connecticut Solrocks. It's actually Solrock, just one. And what happened in this match is Mountay constantly out-predicting and outplaying his opponent to a T. He didn't even need to put everyone of his on the field. They just wrecked the opponent. That's basically it. It's not a sweep, it's just a constantly outplaying of the opponent to a certain position where eventually Mountay managed to KO everyone on the opposing side. So props to Mountay, he's looking quite scary coming into playoffs, so I'd watch out for anyone that wants to play, that will have to play him, you're in for some trouble, gotta say. Next up, we have the Sydney Six versus the Sacramento Sandslash. The match was really traded blow for blow in the beginning, and both coaches ended up with 3 mons, I believe, on each side of the field. And at one point, there was the Nidoking, the Latios, and the Typhonol on the Sacramento Sandslash side, and the Tapu Lele and the Heatran on the Sydney Six side. And Pat Mac could have made this battle a lot less extended if he had pressed Calamari on the Latios, but he didn't. The match dragged down quite a bit, gotta say, and eventually the Sacramento Sandslash made some key reads and outplays that managed to grab them the win. So props to that, and sometimes you just gotta be lucky, that's all. Next up, we have a snooze fest of a match. Boy, did this match go long. It was the Hellblaze Volcaronas versus the Cerulean City Mewtwo. It was a 5-4, and this 5-4 score was despite being on land timer, on chess timer. So you can see the type of match that it was. Arcanine went down pretty soon, and that left the Cerulean City Mewtwo with little options to break through the Skarmory, and the match dragged down quite a bit because of that, and also because the Dragapult was KO'd pretty early, or at least chipped down enough that Lucas didn't want to bring it safely on the field, and eventually the two teams were just so well fitted into each other that the timer wasn't really enough for the match to come to an end. So Lucas managed to grab that one, and that's just those matches where nothing happens. Next up, we have, I believe this is the last battle of this week. It's the Nashville Nidokings versus the Galaxico Blazikens, and San managed to grab his second win of the season, and he did it with the Sunny Day on the Klefki, passing down to the Solar Power Charizard that just wrecked through Brave's team. So props to San for managing to get that very important win, and he was potentially in a playoff race if he managed to still win in the next week. So we'll see how that one went. But first we gotta see the results after week 6. So in the Armor division, we can see that basically only 2 coaches could grab the top spot, which were the 3 Electrons and the Austin Taurus. Actually, no, 3 and 4 spots can potentially claim the first seed. It would have to mess up with differentials big time, but the four people at the top could still potentially grab the first spot. And we can see that the Philadelphia Melmetals are actually sitting at the number 5 of the standings, going up to last week, and they only depended on themselves to clinch that playoff spot. So we'll see how that one went. The 6th Street Viper really had to pull a miracle to try and claim that last playoff spot. And on the Crown division, the Immunity Idols sitting comfortably at the top, and the only team that could potentially grab that spot would actually be the Cerulean City Mewtwo. They would have to win 4-0 in order to get that first seed and those coveted 2-week buys. Next up, we had the Hellblaze Volcaronas tied with the Cerulean City Mewtwo, and pretty much all the way down to the 7th spot, anyone could grab a playoff spot, depending on the results of that week. And with that, we're gonna head off into the last week of the regular season. We'll start off with a match that actually didn't happen, so I mentioned that Souza decided to forfeit his last 2 battles, and then Bishmi got this win out of last week. Next, we have the Philadelphia Melmetals versus the 3 Electrons. Cherry duked it out on the Pokemon Showdown. Actually, it wasn't Wi-Fi because of time constraints, and Sven actually lost this match to Cherry. Cherry managed to grab the win, and this win was very important because it managed to lock him in playoffs. So congrats to Cherry, he started 0-4 in the season and managed to climb all the way down to 3-4 and actually grabbing a playoff spot. So many congratulations to him. It was a really hell of a ride, and let's see how he performs during the playoffs. As for Sven, I expect him to do well, so we'll see about him also. Next up, we have the grudge match of the century. We have the Austin Taurus running down over the Rustboro City Rejects with a 4-0 victory, and this match was the match where Tapu Koko proved why he's a first pickable Mon, and also a match where Arts decided to bring some less utilized Mons and actually more fun sets, so that may also have something to do with his performance during this match, so that's not something to be written off. And these are actually two coaches that will be in the playoffs. The last one for this division will be Bishmi, and the matches go like, we'll see how the matches go when the standings come around. And in the other match of the division, the 6th Street Viper actually forfeited his game to the Miami Heatmore because Cherry had already locked his spot in playoffs. Sharky didn't feel like playing. Aldra was already out of playoff contention also, but Sharky was the one to give up on the match first, so he got the forfeit loss. And going on to the next division, we actually start with the last match to be completed. It was the Hellblaze Volcarunners versus the Nashville Nidokings, and Dragapult just went ham on this match with a Life Orb set, with Thunderbolt more on the physical side and with Thunderbolt for coverage. So it was a really good prep on Lucas to bring the Infiltrator because Gengar was a substitute set, and he managed to circumvent the substitute because of the Infiltrator. So it was a really nice prep out of Lucas, and the match was a bit hacksy, not gonna lie, but I think even without the hacks, the result would have been quite similar to what actually was. Next up, we have actually a really high quality match, although it was a 5-0 victory for the Immunity Idols. Both coaches brought out their most brilliant sets, I think, on their prime threats. So the Dracovish was packing a Whirlpool set designed to trap the Pharaoh Seeds in, and with the substitute it was able to 1v1 it. And the Spectrier set was sub-nasty plot Will-O-Wisp to catch the Miltank switch and set up on it, even though it shouldn't be able to do that. So in the end, that Spectrier set was able to sweep the team of the Cerulean City Mewtwo, so props to Mountay for pulling that off, and with this win, Mountay actually clinched off his first place and 2-week bye on his on the Crown Division. And next up we have the battle of the Commissioners, the Battle of California. The Calexico Blazicans lost against the Sacramento Sandslash. Basically, the Sacramento Sandslash led with the Salazzle that was just spreading toxic after toxic after toxic, and Sen eventually got the whole team poisoned, and that meant that in the late game Blastoise just came in, set up on the Klefki and on the Palpitoad, and was just able to sweep from there. So really nice sweep to the Sacramento Sandslash, and I'm looking forward to see how they perform during a whole season in this league next season. And I think this is the last match of the season. It's the Connecticut Soul Rock versus the Sydney Six. It was more of a brawly trade blow for trade blow on both coaches' sides, and eventually the Sydney Six managed to climb out on top of that exchange. So the main threat on the Connecticut Soul Rock was the Arachnid, Choice Bandit, and the way the Sydney Six managed to break the enemy team was mostly through the Noivern. So in the end, that trade-off of Noivern and Arachnid managed to grab the Sydney Six their last win of the season and a spot in the playoffs. So as we can see for the Crown Division, the Austin Tauruses managed to grab that 2-week bye. So the two matches that will happen are actually the Trashtown Thieves versus the Philadelphia Melmetals, and the 3 Electrons versus the Rustboro City Rejects. And for the Crown Division, the Immunity Idols managed to grab that coveted 2-week bye. And as for the next matches, the Hellblaze Volcaronas will face off once again against the Nashville Nidokings, and the Cerulean City Mewtwo have to face off against the Sydney Six in a repeat of the first battle of the season. So this is it for this specific video. I will analyze and do pick'ems in a separate video, so I can go a little bit more in depth on every match that will happen during the playoffs. And this is basically it for the clean sweep. No, I lie. I'll actually bring back clean sweep for after playoff matches. And I'll see you guys on the power rankings for the end of the regular season. And that one will be the last episode of power rankings for the season. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on the next one. Squid jetting out.